So the next movie up that we're going to talk about is a Stephen King novel adaptation called Thinner from 1996. It's about a man named Billy who's an obese lawyer. And one night he gets distracted by some epic blowjob action and accidentally runs over an old gypsy lady crossing the street. So the old lady's father ends up putting curse on him and also on some other men who played a hand in assisting Billy with dodging any form of punishment or legal implications from the accident. Now, I mean, Stephen King novel adaptations, I mean, as you know, I don't read the books, so the novel themselves doesn't really play any part in my enjoyment of the movie. And with this one, it's an okay movie. It's certainly not a great movie, not a terrible movie either. I mean, the story itself is pretty decent, I guess, as you could expect from someone like Stephen King. It's just that I don't think most of the characters in the movie are actually all that interesting. Like the lead actor, he kind of bugged me a little bit. For some reason, I kept thinking, you know, this Charles Grodin-looking motherfucker. He's just, I don't know, something about his face just made me want to punch it. And I just recently looked at some of the other movies he's been on. I realized he played RoboCop in RoboCop 3, which is a pretty terrible movie in comparison to the first two. So that kind of rubs me the wrong way as well. The ending also could have been, well, I don't know if it could have been better. I just didn't.
Well, I just see how it could be worse, to be honest. But
yeah, I mean, I just didn't. I don't know. The ending just. I don't know. I'll explain a bit more about why I perhaps didn't like it, but maybe I'll just get your thoughts on the movie.
So, this was a Stephen King novel originally published under his pseudonym Richard Bachman, if I recall. Now, I've not actually read the book, so luckily that's not going to be part of my take on this one. Even so, I've seen this movie maybe twice, maybe 3 times, and I find many of the performances in the movie somewhat underwhelming. I don't much care for the main actor. I think it's Robert John Borg. And some of the acting in this movie is just like really over the top and hammy. And like the ending is like it's somewhat dark ending, but it's also played in a somewhat cheesy way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, and I just think the movie needed it. If the movie does one thing right, it's the character played by Joe Montagna, which may or may not be how you pronounce his name, but it's the guy probably most well-known. Well, he's well-known for probably quite a few things, but I know him most from his long-standing role in the television series Criminal Minds.
Well, not to interrupt you, but
yes.
I know him mostly from The Simpsons. He does Fat Tony's voice, so...
Yeah, and I've never seen The Simpsons, so... Yeah, and he's also well-known for that. So, and he's I think he's decently recognizable, even if you don't necessarily, watch either one.
Do you actually realize that out of all the millions listening to our show, probably all of them, as soon as you just said you've never seen The Simpsons, their jaw just dropped and hit the floor.
Well, I am a Family Guy type guy. So, I'm actually not. But, although I have seen a lot more Family Guy than I have Simpsons. So, that's not how...
Well, you said you haven't seen any Simpsons.
I literally haven't seen a single episode of The Simpsons that I recall. Yeah. So, it's a fun fact. Not to disappoint anybody. But I do think Montagna is probably by far the best actor here. I think his character is pretty fun. And honestly, without him in this movie, I probably would have disliked this a bit more. Otherwise, I think the story is decent. I just don't know if the story needed to lead to a movie that was, hour and a half. It just didn't seem like that much story for this type of movie. If you watch the movie, I'm sure you can see some small things that are problematic. I think both of us, like we said, the Andy didn't really work for us, which is fun because from my understanding, they had a different ending originally, but it didn't test well in audiences, and apparently this one tested better. So that's somewhat surprising.
Yeah. I'd say with the ending, at the end where he's got his wife in the bed and he's like licking the stuff off of her. I'm like, are you fucking stupid? I mean, you're not meant to have any of this stuff. Like, I know he kind of says, "Oh, I better not have too much" or whatever, but you don't know how much is enough. Maybe one lick is all it takes. I don't know. What an idiot. Just I don't know, things like that just kind of bug me.
Yeah, it's actually somewhat related. And you so mentioned this earlier. You said not many of the characters were interesting, and I would say not many of the characters were even all that likable. Like, the main character definitely isn't a likable guy, and I didn't honestly feel that much sympathy for him. Same thing with the wife. She just sort of annoyed me more than anything. And honestly, even some of the gypsy characters, I get the whole revenge thing, but there's not many characters in this movie that I actually enjoyed, so it makes it a little more difficult to enjoy the movie as a whole.
There's that one spicy enchilada. She was pulling up her skirt. I was like, just take it all off. Yes.
She is definitely worth getting the cost over.
I didn't get to check out the rack. I need to see the rack. I need to know more about the rack.
Let's just say, if she had taken more off, I would not be thinner.
Does that make sense?
I don't know. But I don't know. For like a mid-90s Stephen King movie, this one's pretty, in my opinion, it's pretty subpar. There's definitely worse Stephen King movies out there, don't get me wrong, but this one, I don't know, it didn't do a whole lot for me. It was just, it's an okay movie, you can throw it on one night, spend some time with it, but I just have a hard time believing somebody can watch this movie and say, hey, they nailed it, by the time the credits start rolling.
Well, just going back to that, the one actor, Joe Mantegna, I think is how it's pronounced. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong too. But because he does a voice in The Simpsons, and the funny thing is, the character he plays in The Simpsons is actually the same type of character he plays in this movie, like a mafia boss type guy.
Well, he's a talent, so it's the same type of role he plays anyway. So.
Even though I enjoy him in the movie, at the same time it has this negative impact because I can't take the movie seriously with him, this character from a comedy show now trying to be this menacing type mafia type character in this movie, but his voice is exactly how it is in The Simpsons, and all I can think about is, his character from The Simpsons while I'm watching this movie. It's not really his fault, but at the same time, I must say, it just makes things a lot more difficult to take serious with this plot.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm not entirely sure this movie is supposed to be necessarily taken that seriously. Well, I don't know, I know it has a case and some darker feel to it, but...
Yeah, it's got a bit from column A, a bit from column B, it's got a bit of serious, it's got a bit of silly, yeah. But then I'm thinking about, there's a scene earlier in the movie, kind of just after he's run down the old gypsy lady, where I think he's having breakfast or whatever, and he's talking to his daughter, and his daughter's worried, are you going to go to prison? And I don't remember the exact quote, but he said something along the lines of, I didn't do anything wrong, or there was no crime, or, what I did wasn't a crime. I'm here thinking, wouldn't that be manslaughter? Isn't manslaughter a crime? I mean, what kind of lawyer are you?
Not if you are well connected.
Yeah. Well, yes, but or maybe there's like a blowjob clause where if you're getting one, you're absolved of any wrongdoing for anything. So, which I could understand if that was a thing, because who can pay attention while you're getting that kind of action?
This is probably why you should not be getting that type of action while driving. Yeah. Just
to be honest, I don't I don't think it's the most comfortable spot to be getting on. At least for me, I can't. I don't.
I can imagine that. Right?
Yeah, I think there's many other places where it'd be much more pleasurable than especially when you're a fat guy in a car. I mean, wouldn't your belly kind of be up near the steering wheel? I mean,
that just adds to the fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you have to appreciate the wife for, I don't know, like, well done, I guess.
Yes, she certainly won a few points, at least for that, but not really for anything else in the movie. Yeah. So, Thinner. It's an okay movie. It's not a good movie. It's I just thought everything was a little underwhelming. If you're looking for great scares or memorable scenes, I wouldn't say there's anything too memorable about it. Nothing that makes you want to go back and watch it again anytime soon. Anyways, I don't want to talk more about it. I'll give it a 6 out of 10, and for me, that's a pretty okay to mediocre type movie. Yeah.
Yeah, mediocre is probably a really good way to describe this. I mean, the movie's not horrible. It's not necessarily a bad movie. It's just there's very little in the movie that really gets the blood pumping. Yeah, it just
except the blowjob in the car.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering if you're going to say that, but anyhow, if there's one thing the movie does well, like I said, it's probably Joe Montega, who I really enjoyed his character, even though his character also had some problems toward the end, but I enjoyed his character. Otherwise, I think most of the acting can be a bit goofy at times. The ending was, I feel like the ending could have been quite a bit better. So I will actually give this one a 6 out of 10, also, which is a below average rating for me. And this, I just have a hard time seeing myself watching this anytime in the near future. It's just not much for this movie, so 6 out of 10 seems fair.
I agree.
Indeed.
6 out of 10 all up in this bitch.